Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and it is always good when we have one of our frequent guests back on the air chatting about the importance of blood and blood banks and all that business. That's Doug Morton, CEO of the San Diego Blood Bank. How you doing there, Doug?
Doing great. Thanks for having us today.
Always good to see you again, joined by Elizabeth Earley, a San Diego Blood Bank recipient. We got a bunch of questions for you, Elizabeth, and I'm honored to be joined by one of the associate producers of Spotlight on the Community Show, Rachel Lee. She's going to be co-hosting with me on the show. Rachel is a sophomore at Georgia Tech University. She's one of the up-and-coming cyber experts. She also does a cyber show for us at Cloudcast Media, among other things as well. How you doing, Rachel?
I'm doing good today.
How do you like co-hosting?
I love co-hosting. It's always refreshing to come back and co-host. It's like riding a bike.
It's like riding a bike. Well, I mean, it's pretty cool with all the guests we have over here. I know Doug, Rachel has a question for you right out of the gate.
Yeah, so let's just get started. Warm up, nice and easy question. So can you tell me a little bit about kind of the mission of your organization?
Absolutely. You know, our role, we're coming up on our 75th anniversary next year, has been to provide quality blood products in partnership with the community. And really, it's all about making sure that a patient in need, a mom who has a child that has a need, never has to worry about blood being available. That's what we get up to do every day.
You know, we talk about this when you've been on the show before and then your predecessors, and I think it's always worth asking the question, how are we within our reserve of blood in San Diego? And does it vary from time to time?
It does vary from time to time. Seasonality, people travel around the holidays, summer. And so really that's part of the message is that blood is needed every day. Blood expires. Some blood products are only good for 5 days. So we have to collect all the time. So we have a steady supply right now, but it's really one day away from being a challenge again. So that's part of the reason to get the word out about it. Need to donate all the time.
Are there any specific days or like times of the year where you see like an increase of need of blood?
Yeah, you know, I just think back to COVID. During time when people weren't working and they were out doing dangerous things, actually the need for trauma units actually went up. There was a concern that a question of how much blood would be needed, but when people were out doing crazy things, there's a certain age range and it tends to be male, but...
It's always the males that are messing things up. I'm just telling you right now. And so I must admit that. You know, Elizabeth, you're a recipient. Tell your story.
Yeah, so I was in a pretty serious motorcycle accident. A car just sort of pulled out in front of me 1 second before I got there. There's nothing I could do. Wow. So I just closed my eyes. And the next thing I know, I was on the hood of this car and bleeding to death. One of the injuries that I had was that the femoral artery in my groin was severed. And so I could feel the blood just leaving my body rapidly. And my hand was also hanging off by skin. You can see this lovely scar here. It was reattached and it works.
Compound fracture?
It was, yeah.
Almost
completely.
Severed?
It was severed. It was hanging off by skin.
Oh,
yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, bleeding and terrified. I had a 3-year-old son at home. I had just hugged him and told him I would be back in time to tuck him in for bed. And here I was thinking, he's never going to see me again. Like, this is it. And
you're conscious.
I was unfortunately very conscious.
Right.
So I had a person on the scene who was a doctor. He came probably 30 seconds after I landed there and lifted the visor on my helmet. And he said, I was screaming at the time, and he shouted to be heard over my screaming, and he said, "I'm a doctor. Your injuries are serious, but you're going to be okay. You're going to live." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm going to die." And he said, "I promise you're going to live, but you have to calm down and you have to breathe with me, because the more you panic, the more blood you're going to lose." And so I immediately calmed down and got very zen. And then he proceeded to climb up onto the hood and cut off my bootlaces and tie a tourniquet on my arm. And he stayed there until the paramedics got there. And then they loaded me onto the ambulance, and I was in a ton of pain. So I was just begging for drugs. And they said, we can't even detect a blood pressure on you. So we can't give you any pain medication. We have to give you blood immediately. And so they gave me a transfusion right there in the ambulance. They had blood on board. And later on, I was told that I had lost almost all the blood in my body on the hood of that car. Probably shouldn't have lived to the time that the ambulance got there. And it was kind of a miracle that I did. Certainly wouldn't have without that doctor who intervened. And then it just kind of blew my mind that there was other people's blood on this ambulance available for me to save my life. And blood donating had never really been on my radar before that.
Wow.
And I had a dream, a very vivid dream, of a woman on one gurney and my body on the other gurney. And there was a tube going from her body into my body, just transferring her blood into my body. And I was like, that is literally what this is. Like, these people are going out of their way, undergoing a fair measure of discomfort to freely give their vital fluids so that other people's lives can be saved in a situation like this. And I honestly could not wait to go donate blood. I went, I think, on the anniversary of my accident to the blood bank, all excited. And at the time, they wouldn't let me. They said it was too soon. I can't remember why. I had received a transfusion, I think, not far enough in the past, so I had to wait a few more months. But I have been donating blood ever since.
So when you were in the ambulance, I mean, what a story that is. How quickly did they know they're giving you the right type of blood? I mean, because you probably are still in so much pain. Did they ask you what type you are and so forth?
They did ask me what type I was.
Did you know what type you were?
I had no idea.
Okay.
And I since learned that they have the universal donor blood on the ambulances.
Okay.
And so honestly, I don't know why they asked me what type I was, because why does it matter? But they did ask.
Maybe just out of, just do that. That's unbelievable. Now, Doug, as Elizabeth was saying, she could not give blood because she had a transfusion X amount of months before she could donate. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's part of the safety protocols. So we abide by the FDA regulations for that. So there are rules. If you've had a transfusion, if you've had surgery, a set amount of time, we have to defer donors.
Right, exactly. So if that's not a compelling enough story, that to why you should donate, obviously, and you're thankful for the thousands of people that do this and don't know which person was the one who saved your life, obviously, besides the doctor. That's an interesting story. My father was a doctor, and almost the exact same thing happened on a trip when I was about 10 years old and going up to Yosemite. There's this horrible accident that just happened, and this guy is just in pretty bad shape like you were. My dad, we got out of the car and saved the person's life. And I'm not sure if there was a blood story like that, but that is phenomenal in that area. We're chatting with Doug Morton. He is the CEO of the San Diego Food Bank, joined by Elizabeth Earley, a San Diego Blood Bank recipient, joined by my co-host, Rachel Lee, the associate producer of Spotlight on the Community Show. This is another edition of our Spotlight Show. We're the nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. These stories, Doug, are just, amazing, and thank you for the courage to share this. I asked this question of Elizabeth, and I'm going to pivot back to Doug on it. So when did you first see your son after you were taken care of? Obviously, you're rushed to the hospital. You're hand is almost severed from your body. Do you remember seeing your son? And what was the first thing you said to him?
I did not see him soon enough. I was in the ICU for a couple of days, and then I was in the trauma ward for 2 weeks. And at the time, there was a flu epidemic, and nobody was allowed to visit, and children were not allowed to visit. So just adults visited me there. And probably 10 days after my accident was when I was able to get out of bed and be basically lifted into a wheelchair by the physical therapists and taken downstairs, where I was reunited with my 2 children. I also had a 9-year-old at the time. And they both ran at me full speed and then stopped like as soon as they got close.
Just like the cartoons, right?
I had 2 casts, and I had this metal X fixator on my pelvis because my whole pelvis was pieced back together by this orthopedic surgeon. And then they were like, kind of looking at me wide-eyed, like, "Oh my gosh, you're very hurt." But it was a lovely little reunion.
Right. How long were you in rehab?
I was, like I said, in the trauma ward for 2 weeks, and then I was transferred to a rehab hospital where I was for an additional month. So 6 months 6 weeks in the hospital.
Okay. So you're very active. Obviously, you're running motorcycles. You play sports?
I no longer ride motorcycles.
Okay,
my
Interesting.
my son made me promise never again to ride a motorcycle, and I promised him that I would not.
Right.
I honestly wouldn't have fun if I did. It's too scary.
What type of motorcycle was it? I have to ask that.
It was a beautiful Ducati.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
It was my dream bike. But I am very active. I hike, I jog, I swim, and I had a very talented orthopedic surgeon, and I'm proud to say that I recovered beyond what anybody's expectations were, and I do all of those things today.
How about the doctor that saved your life?
That man, I don't know who he is to this day. He remains anonymous,
but he's saved you, and of course, and then everything that goes with it. When we come back from break, we're going to talk more with Doug Morton, the CEO of San Diego Blood Bank, joined by Elizabeth Earley, San Diego Blood Bank recipient. I'm Drew Schlosberg, joined by my co-host, Rachel Lee, associate producer of the Spotlight and the Community Show. More questions to ask of you, Doug. As you know, we always save time in the second half of the segment. What can our listeners do to help support you in so many different ways? And then we'll get some final thoughts from Elizabeth as well. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things for folks who live in San Diego County, joined by Doug Morton, CEO of the San Diego Blood Bank, and Elizabeth Earley, a San Diego Blood Bank recipient. What a compelling story Elizabeth just shared, joined by my co-host, Rachel Lee, associate producer of our Spotlight show. Rachel?
Yeah, so Elizabeth, you mentioned earlier that on the anniversary of your accident, you went to donate blood, but unfortunately were unable to. But what was your experience like the first time you were actually able to donate blood after your accident?
It it was really kind of like I was a celebrity because people, I told my story and people came out and the PR guy came out and sort of everybody gathered around to hear my story. But, everybody was incredibly friendly and going out of their way to make me comfortable, and there's free snacks, and it's just a very friendly, clean, comfortable environment. I was surprised at how comfortable and easy it was to go and give blood. And like I said, I've been doing it ever since. I'm going to be a lifelong blood donor.
Now, Doug, do you donate your blood?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
And how much can people donate blood? Is there a time you can only do it once a quarter, or how does that work?
For whole blood, you can donate every 8 weeks.
Okay.
For some people, some women, we would recommend a little less than that based on their iron levels. And this is one of the things we do when people come in to donate. We do a little mini physical because first we want to make sure we're protecting the donor, right? They're here to do a good thing. And sometimes we have to say, not today,
right,
in the interest of their own health. But most people that are generally healthy can donate 4 to 6 times a year whole blood without a problem. We have many very dedicated donors that donate platelets, which can be done every 2 weeks. And I was mentioning some platelets are only good for 5 days.
Right.
And then we still have to test them before it gets to the patient. So that needs to happen every day.
So when do you balance the platelets versus the other type of blood you have, and you make sure, okay, we got 80% of these, we need 20% more. This one we got plenty of right now.
We do, right? That's part of being good stewards of the blood supply. So we might call you and say, hey, we need your blood type. It's because we need your blood type.
Right.
And so we may ask donors to give a double red cell on a day if we need O's, for example. O's are used in trauma because they can be given to anybody. So there's often a big need for that. Also, O's are used for babies, neonate units, new babies before you know what their blood type is, that sort of thing.
Right. So, talk about, the importance of, getting people to donate, of course, obviously, and donate on a consistent basis. And, the fact, if they can't get to you, can you come to them?
Absolutely. We have mobiles every day. We run mobiles, up to 40 in any given week. We're running blood mobiles out in the community. So if a company wants to give back to the community, we would encourage them to reach out at sandiegoBloodBank.org, schedule a blood donation. It's an opportunity to give their employees a chance to give back as well. Really listening to Elizabeth's story, though, this is why we do what we do. And it's such a reminder, saving her life's incredible. But when you think about the fact that the impact on her child, our youngest, who's telling her no more riding motorcycles, right? Who knows what the impact of that is over, decades to come. So it's just it's a humbling reminder of the work we do. And none of it is possible without dedicated blood donors.
How would you say San Diego is? I think I've asked you this question before, Doug, in terms of having our populace donate blood compared to other major urban areas. Are we good? Are we in the middle? Are we better? Average?
We're probably in the average. And so we're really pushing to increase that because, hey, we have great weather here. It's not like you have to slog through the snow to get to the blood drive, which is true in other places.
Right.
So we have a program that we call a Guardian Circle program. And it's really that. We're looking for people to be guardians of the blood supply because it's the blood that was already collected sitting there when Elizabeth needed it. And that's true for many patients every day that you may never know as a blood donor. Maybe you'll get a chance to meet them someday, but you know that you're making a tremendous difference. And so that's why I appreciate Elizabeth coming today just to tell her story so people can kind of put a story, a real life impact from that anonymous blood donations.
Well, it's interesting. Rachel and I, or maybe it might have been the other co-host that was here, we're chatting with a gentleman that is laser beam non-spinal cord injuries. And just like with Elizabeth, her life changed in a nanosecond, right? Just like that. And you have to be this great doctor that told her, hey, You need to calm down a little bit. And then, of course, the blood that came from the ambulance. And the same thing in the story is you never know when you're going to be in these situations. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you, but it does happen. And because of what you folks do, Doug and the donors obviously saved Elizabeth's life right on the spot there, or else that would have been it, and so forth. The other part you brought up, something we say all the time on this show, I sound like a broken record, but it's true. Yes, you're saving the person's life, like Elizabeth, but the tentacles that go out, her 2 kids, her husband, aunts, uncles, pets, everything else that's in her orbit has now been affected by what you've done on that. Talk about that, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that often. I think about how kids were given back their mom, parents were given back their daughter, a community was given back. I mean, I published my second novel. I sold my second novel in the year after my accident. I've done a lot with my life in the past 6 years since that time that my life was saved. And I'm committed to, continuing to make an impact and in one small way, it's by giving blood, but I have that on my mind often, like how much can I contribute?
Well, it's been a major impact. Rachel, what other questions do you have either for Doug or for Elizabeth?
Yeah, so it was just, Doug, I was hearing about how you were able to use kind of Elizabeth's story as a way to, I guess, inspire other people to get involved with blood donation. And I'm here listening to your story, Elizabeth, and I'm like, maybe I'm going to go to the blood bank this afternoon. But what are some other ways that you guys have to reach out to people who maybe are on the fence about donating blood, or just maybe aren't very much aware of like the constant need for blood?
Yeah, so opportunities like this are great. So thank you, right? Sometimes it's just about getting the word out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just they need to be asked. Right. And so I would encourage anyone listening to certainly donate, but bring a friend with you. Right. Share the story, because it is for people ultimately why people donate. And it's Elizabeth. I was sharing, we have a focused patient named Camilla. She just turned 10, has received 173 blood transfusions over her life. Wow. And she needs those every 2 to 3 weeks. And if there's not anonymous donors on the other end of that coming in, dedicated donors, right, there's no guarantee that blood's available, and there's no substitute for human blood.
Talk about your community partners. You do a lot of blood drives. You work with, of course, when the Chargers were here, you worked with the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken. You do stuff with the Padres, I'm assuming, and so forth. Talk about those partners. Yeah,
we have a couple big Padre blood drives, which is great. We have a program that we call Community Guardians. So we're looking for organizations that to join. And that's a couple different things. It could mean holding a blood drive. It could mean just getting the word out. Back to your question, we need a diverse donor base. And so we need organizations that are from diverse populations, and sometimes just starting to get the word out. So maybe that donor, that new potential donor, is not coming in tomorrow, but they're hearing the message, they're hearing the story, they're hearing a story from someone that looks like them, right, as we look at a very diverse patient population. But eventually, right, I don't know what the is it 8 times you have to hear something before you?
At least. I think in this day and age, I think it's 108.
Okay.
I think what's so cool about what Rachel was asking as well, is there a profile of a donor, or they are all shapes and sizes and ages and all that business?
It's funny. Multiple times we've tried to crack that nut and looked at databases and all of this. The data that comes back is nope. It's a random sampling of the population.
Yeah.
Which is in some ways fabulous, right? Because it's like, this is not unique to any one segment of the population. Anybody can be a blood donor. And it's important that as we have a program we call Precision Blood, where we're trying to really precisely match blood types using next generation sequencing. That means we need a very diverse donor population. And that's not true nationally. The population tends to be very white. And so we have a great diverse population here. And so we do better than the country. To your point, that's an area where we're much better, but we want to continue to grow that diverse donor population.
Right. Now look at someone like Rachel, who's a whiz with many, many things, technology and all that business and social media. And she's now going to be inspired to go to the blood bank. And I think whether she goes this afternoon or not, knowing Rachel, she's going to do it, whether she does it when she comes back from Atlanta, where she's going to school, or she does it there. Who knows? Maybe you're going to look up a blood bank back at Georgia Tech as well. But Rachel has a ability in one few texts. Hey, you're going to join me, my 20 friends, and we're going to see you doggone at the blood bank doing it. And now there's 20 folks that may have not done it before. I mean, the sky's the limit, really, Doug, in that area. What can we do to help support your efforts?
So again, just get the word out. So you're doing that right now. So we really appreciate that. We would direct anybody to sandiegobloodbank.org. That's our website. And again, there's multiple ways to give. There are people that can't donate for health reasons.
Right.
We need buses, right? To your point, to get out in the community.
That's right.
Those are incredibly expensive. So we need financial donors. We have opportunities for people to come in and serve as a volunteer in our canteens to thank donors. So lots of opportunities. People can give back. It's not just money. It's not just blood donation. We have some very dedicated folks that do all three of those things. But we would encourage just to reach out and ask, how can I help ultimately the patients in need?
Well, and listen, if there's a reason other than to hear Elizabeth's story, if that's not enough to motivate you, I'm not sure what will. Elizabeth, any final comments?
Yeah, I think the only other comment that came to mind is that there are less restrictions. There are fewer restrictions on blood donation than there used to be. I've noticed that on the intake questionnaire, things have been evolving there. One example is that gay men used to not be allowed to give blood, and I know that was a pretty controversial issue.
Right.
It's no longer the case, and I'm really happy about that. It took too long, but so just don't any preconceived conceptions you might have about a reason why you can't give. Check it out. It probably has changed, and you can get there and give and make a real impact in a really easy way.
Well, and you bring up a very, very good point. If you don't know, just give Doug and his team a call. They'll let you know right out of the gate. And great point, Doug. And if you can't give blood for whatever reason in this, you can donate. So we're going to have buses. You can volunteer at our events. You can do X, Y, and Z. There's many ways to do it. Doug's always good to have you on and talking about these important stories. And Elizabeth, thank you for sharing your very, very interesting, very emotional story. We're looking forward to seeing what type of feedback we get from this interview. I think it'll be very, very positive. We'll send you the link to this story. And Doug, we're going to look forward to having you back on periodically. We always do. We can't talk enough about the blood bank, and bring on another person like Elizabeth that can tell their great story.
Really appreciate your support.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest running community podcast. Now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing just great stuff for us folk living here in San Diego County. Thank you to my co-host, Rachel Lee, the associate producer of the Spotlight on the Community Show. We hope you enjoyed the segment.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.